Here with the work that we've been doing on the state capital construction bill. Before we do, I'd like to take a privilege. I have been looking at this work that this committee does for some time, and what I mentioned earlier, that I was excited about what we would be able to do in influencing the finances of the state. And to that effect, I've determined that at least my efforts will be to focus on our long-term profile, trying to ensure the fiscal soundness of the state. And so in that effort, I have had a copy of that document posted outside, and I would say that Wendy Madsen and LSO has done an incredible job of getting it up there. It's a little dark in that corner, so we're working on some lighting so you could read it, but there's a QR code where people can snap a shot at that and go and see what it is we're focusing on as a committee and hopefully as a body to try to advance the state's fiscal soundness. I would say this, that some years ago we dropped in the Standard & Poor's rating from a AAA rating to a AA rating. Now, we don't borrow money, so it's probably not that big a deal, but still, being able to be rated that you're fiscally sound, I think is very important to have that measure, and I think we should all be proud of that, and we'll be working towards trying to make the state of Wyoming a AAA rated state in that regard. So thank you to Wendy Madsen for that effort, and please take a look at that as you go out the door here, and that'll be on display till further notice. And thank you very much. So let's, I did want to say something earlier when I went over decorum. I gave the demand that there was going to be no whoop whoop, and oh no, you didn't do that. I'm going to keep doing that until I get at least a smile. All right, there you go. She could do it better. Whoop whoop. All right, back to business. And we have been doing a great job as far as getting through the bill. So hopefully we'll continue at that pace and we can do more good work for the state of Wyoming. Mr. Richards, would you like to go ahead and, do we need to take a roll? Mm-hmm. Okay. Ms. Childress, would you please take the roll?
Representative Alamand.
Present.
Representative Angelos.
Here.
Representative Haroldson.
Here.
Representative Pendergraft.
Here.
Representative Sherwood.
Here.
Representative Smith.
Here.
Chairman Bear.
Here. All right. Mr. Richards, please.
Mr. Chairman, upon adjournment of the noon recess meeting, I believe Representative Haroldson was in the midst of potentially making a motion.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I would like to reopen Unit 8041, and I would like to bring an amendment to add, and I'm going to have to get a...
Speaker Pro Tem, would you please give us the page number just so we can...
Sure, it's page number 24. Back on the capital construction request for the firearm range at the Law Enforcement Academy. And this would be an amendment to add that position, that temporary position for construction, just upon getting a better education on it. I believe that would be a fiscally wise decision to add that. So it would be just to give that direction to add that one temporary position.
Okay, just for clarity, Mr. Richards, that was an AWEC position?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct, and technically they already have the position, so the footnote would simply allow them to use a portion of the funds which you've already approved for that AWEC person. And
Director McComey, that was something that you had requested? Okay. All right, you've heard the motion. Is there a second? I'm sorry?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to clarify, are we going to allow this existing AWAC to serve as a project coordinator on both the firearm range and the driving facility? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman and Representative Sherwood, that was the ask, and so I would assume that would be, I mean, I trust him in that realm, but that was the ask, so it'd be for both of these projects.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Okay, seconded by Representative Angelos. All right, all those in favor of Representative Haroldson's motion? Representative aye? Aye. Those opposed? And that carries. So we have reopened that section, and now we're going to vote again to reclose that section. Ms. Childers?
Roll call vote for Agency 227, Unit 8041, as amended. Representative Allemand?
No.
Representative Angelos? Aye. Representative Haroldson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
No.
Representative Sherwood?
Aye.
Representative Smith?
No.
Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 4 ayes, 3 noes.
Okay, Mr. Richards, if you'd please move forward.
Mr. Chairman, the next unit for your consideration appears on page 36, Unit 8071. This is the Wyoming Community College, Central Wyoming Community College, Industrial Maintenance, Construction, Renovation, Level 2 and Level 3. I would note that unlike the remainder of these, this is 100% local funds. We use the term PR for private funds. It's technically funds that are available to the college itself. It might be tuition and fees, it might be their property taxes. They are required to get authorization from the state, not necessarily to provide funding for this, but a recognition that in the future, this building will be part of the major maintenance liability which the state pays. So that's the reason behind authorizing these.
Any questions on this section? Just for clarity, I'd like to describe my understanding of this. So even if one of these community colleges is building a building with local funds or private funds, they need to get state approval to do that. And we had this situation with Campbell County's new community college last year where they were wanting to build a few new buildings, and we have to approve that, whether they have the funding themselves or not, because of that ongoing expenditure for maintenance of those facilities. So that once that falls under the state, we need to realize we're going to have some expenditures. So that's what that's about, and that's what this is here. So any comments, any motions? All right, with that, we'll go ahead and take the roll call. Ms. Childers?
Roll call vote, Agency 227, Unit 8071, Representative Allemand?
Aye.
Representative Angelos?
Aye.
Representative Haroldson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood?
Aye.
Representative Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7 ayes.
All right, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, the next unit for your consideration appears on page 40, Unit 8061. This is the first in a series of 4 requests from LCCC, that's Laramie County Community College. And you will note this is shared between the state and the local funding for the renovation of their auto tech facility.
All right, any discussion?
81, excuse me.
All right, I believe we have some testimony from online. Is that right, Ms. Childers? For this particular line, this unit?
Yes. Oh, go
Was it this unit or was it Sheridan?
Mr. Chairman, I believe it was Sheridan, which
Okay.
is.
All right, we'll hold off on that then.
Okay.
Any comments or any questions? Go ahead, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is obviously an ongoing project, one layer after another, and I assume the contractors and all their equipment are on site, so it would be much more cost-effective just to continue the progress as it goes. But the question comes down to how far into this are we? Are we going to see more of these in a year? Are we pretty well finishing up? Just coming into the middle, I'm not sure where we're at.
Director McComey, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dale McComey, Director, State Construction Department. Yeah, there is, Representative Pendergeist, already projects ongoing. A number of them have been worked on, and there are contractors on site right now. So yes, this is a continuing effort, and I believe this will pretty well finish those projects or those type of buildings up.
Any further questions? Any amendments? Ms. Childers, if you would take the roll call.
Roll call vote, Agency 227, Unit 8081, Representative Alaman? Aye. Representative Angelos?
Aye.
Representative Haroldson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood?
Aye.
Representative Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7 ayes.
All right, Mr. Richards?
Mr. Chairman, the next unit for your consideration appears on page 44, Unit 8091. This is also at LCCC, the second of 4, renovation of the Science Center.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, just real quick.
Go ahead, Representative Haroldson.
Is there any warranty work on concrete that goes faulty? I mean, have we contacted, like, I know, I just was wondering, how old are these buildings? I know there's not warranty work, I'm joking on that, but how old are these buildings? And obviously, I know that if we don't put facade, we're gonna lose these buildings. But is this a situation where this concrete went out within 20 years? Is this 40-year-old concrete? I mean, I just wanted to kind of get a real quick idea.
Mr. Chairman, most of these buildings, I believe, are in the 70s era. And in this particular part of the state, we have our aggregates are known as reactive aggregates. And so when they mix with the concrete, water hits them, then we have that type of a problem. The DOT has had extensive repairs on their concrete highways down here. It wasn't back in that day and age really recognized, and it is today, so there are fixes for it, and that's kind of what they're doing. We actually have a couple of state buildings. My office is the same era, same T-girder stand-up situation, and we're having the same problems on that particular state building. I think the liquor warehouse is another one we have, and you may see requests. I know we're gonna bring this to the State Building Commission, and since we have these ongoing projects, they've already got kind of some design done. We're gonna maybe try and tie our designs and those things in for future repairs, because we're having spalling along the base and the headers on our building. We've gone in and done some repairs over the years. It's been repainted, it's showing back up. We have exposed rebar, it's rusting away. Actually had chunks fall off over the doors and the soffits of the buildings, chunks of concrete fall off here in the last couple of years. So again, it's just the error that, and the manufacturing plant that did that was actually a local Cheyenne facility at the time. And so, you know, a lot of buildings around Cheyenne took that same prototype type of buildings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that information. I appreciate it.
Any other comments? Questions? Any motions? All right. Ms. Childress, please take the roll.
Roll call vote for Agency 227, Unit 8091. Representative Alaman? Aye. Representative Angelos?
Aye.
Representative Haroldson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood?
Aye.
Representative Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7 ayes.
Go ahead, Mr. Richards.
The next unit for your consideration appears on page 48, Unit 8101. This is also at LCCC, the third of 4, renovation of the Crossroads building.
All right. Any further questions on this section? Any motions? Ms. Childress, please call the roll.
Roll call vote for Agency 227, Unit 8101. Representative Alaman? Aye. Representative Angelos?
Aye.
Representative Haroldson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood?
Aye.
Representative Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7 ayes.
Thank you. Mr. Richards, continue, please.
Mr. Chairman, the last item at LCCC appears on page 52. It's Unit 8111, LCCC building renovation for the Community College Center.
Any questions? Any motions? Ms. Childress, please call the roll call.
Roll call vote for Agency 227, Unit 8111. Representative Alaman? Aye. Representative Angelos?
Aye.
Representative Haroldson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood?
Aye.
Representative Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7 ayes.
Thank you, Mr. Richards.
The next item for your consideration appears on page 57, Unit 8121. This is the Northwest College at Sheridan, the science building. To be clear, the request was for a state share of both private funds or local resources and state general funds. The governor's rec is solely for the private sources. This one has, I believe.
Thank you, thank you. Ms. Childers, can we get our first testimony from, looks like Mr. Accord? Can we get him up on?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Craig Accord. The other individual is not online with us, so it's just Craig Accord for now.
Okay. Mr. Accord? Mr. Accord, if you're there, we're waiting on you to come online. We may have scared them away.
Here, I think he's coming now.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me now?
I can, and I can see you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. My president must be having some IT issues. He is online as well. We're just here to answer any questions that the state building, if they have any questions upon us. So not necessarily here to testify, but here to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. Harrelson, Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for joining us today. So as we're looking at the governor's recommendation, obviously, governor's rec leaves out the 12 million of general fund dollars. If you only had the 9964 of private funds or your local funds, what does that do to the scope and sequence of this project? Does it put it kind of halt it? Or does that give you an opportunity to continue forward, obviously with just different scope?
Mr. Chair, through the committee, with your permission, I'd like to introduce Dr. Trively. He can answer that question for us. He is online here.
President Trively, Dr. Trively, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Bear. Yeah, that would not allow us to do what we are intending to do with the building. The building is approaching half a century. It's in its 40s. It was constructed long before many of the modern equipment that we're using, certainly in organic chemistry and others, were even part of teaching at community colleges. So it really would stop our ability to do what we fully intend. There are elements of the project that relate to ADA compliance and fire suppression and those types of things that we could do within the scope, certainly well within the scope of the 9 million local, but we don't want to do that expense and that renovation and then come back a couple of years later and ask for what we're asking for today. That would be wasteful.
All right, Mr. Vice Chair Pendergraph.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, Doctor, it's good to see you. I look at a lot of these building projects and maintenance projects, and they just seem to be carried over, delayed year after year as things get more costly. Could you tell me perhaps how long this has been in the works?
Yes, Chair Bear, through you, Representative Pendergraph, this has been part of the facilities master plan at Sheridan College since 2009. And we have had a lot of reasons to be putting other buildings forward over those years. But it's been in the works, it's been in the planning since 2009.
Follow up. Any other questions for the good doctor? All right, thank you for your testimony. Any motions? Representative Pendergraph.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In light of the length of time that this has been languishing and in looking at inflation, I would move that we object to the governor's cut and that we go ahead and get this project finished, that we restore those funds and get this paid for.
All right, you've heard the motion. Do I have a second? No second, that dies without a second. Any other motions? Any questions or comments? Ms. Childers, would you please take the roll?
Roll call vote for Agency 227, Unit 8121, Representative Alaman. Aye. Representative Angelos.
Aye.
Representative Haraldson.
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood.
Aye.
Representative Smith.
Aye.
Chairman Bear.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7 ayes.
Thank you. Mr. Richards?
Mr. Chairman, the next unit for your consideration appears on page 61, Unit 8131. This is the first of 2 requests from the Department of Corrections. The first request relates to the electronic security system integration.
All right, electronic security system integration. And again, this was to ensure that the electronic security system matched other systems. We're getting a little old, long in the tooth on this system, so throughout the state's correctional system. So any questions on this unit? All right, any motions? All right, Ms. Childress, please call the roll.
Roll call vote for Agency 227, Unit 8131, Representative Alaman. Aye. Representative Angelos.
Aye.
Representative Haraldson.
No.
Representative Pendergraft.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood.
Aye.
Representative Smith.
Aye.
Chairman Bear.
No.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes, 2 noes.
Thank you. Mr. Richards, please continue.
Mr. Chairman, the last item in your book appears on page 65, Unit 8141, Department of Corrections, Wyoming State Penitentiary HVAC replacement.
Okay, any questions about the HVAC renovation? Any motions? Ms. Childress, please take the roll.
Roll call vote for Agency 227, Unit 8141, Representative Alaman. Aye. Representative Angelos.
Aye.
Representative Haraldson.
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood.
Aye.
Representative Smith.
Aye.
Chairman Bear.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7 ayes.
Thank you. I believe, Mr. Richards, we wanted to address the funding source for this. If you could walk us through what that amendment to the bill would look like, or how that would read out for ensuring that the funding is appropriate. And if you wouldn't mind, also maybe describe what our options are as well.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. There is likely to be sufficient funds in the general fund to address all of your requests, but then you would run out of any general funds for the supplemental budget or for bills that might come to you on the floor from committees or individual members. There are a couple ways to address that. Option number 1 is to include this entirely from general funds and clean up any needed funds in the supplemental budget, a separate vehicle in a budget balancer. The challenge with that is the timing of these 2 bills. And it's possible that this bill moves ahead of or lags behind the supplemental budget, and it becomes unclear whether it will have sufficient funds in the general fund to pay for that. That's the pros and cons of just a straight general fund. The next option would be identify account where there are funds available. So the second option would be to appropriate funds directly from the LSRA. It would be a very transparent transaction that this is coming out of savings for one-time projects. The downside of that is it loses some ability to compare general fund appropriations over time. When you start spending money out of different savings accounts, it might look like, oh, we're spending a lot less in the general fund. Indeed you are, but you're spending more from a savings account. The third option would be to transfer funds from the LSRA to either A, the general fund, or B, the SIPA, and appropriate these projects out of either the general fund or the SIPA. The governor is constrained in his ability through statute for recommendations. So his approach was LSRA to the general fund to the SIPA. There's really no need for you to do that. You could make one transfer from the LSRA to the SIPA and appropriate from the SIPA, or from the LSRA to the general fund. So you kind of have four options. Direct from the general fund and worry about funding the general fund in the supplemental budget, direct from the LSRA, or transferring from the LSRA to the general fund, or transfer from the LSRA to the SIPA account.
Go ahead and ask the question, Vice Chair Pendergraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What's the historical norm? Do they just go directly from the LSRA to the SIPA, or do we normally do the dance?
Mr. Chairman, you do normally do the dance in transferring it from the LSRA to the general fund and from the general fund to the SIPA, but that is not, it's an extra step that is not necessary. You typically, your predecessors have typically not appropriated, other than a couple of limited instances, directly from the LSRA.
Go ahead.
Is there an advantage then to doing the dance that we're not seeing, or is it just, could we just make this more transparent and quicker?
Mr. Chairman, I think the traditional way, this is just my opinion as staff, it includes one additional transfer that is more complicated to explain from this chair to your colleagues.
All right. Before we go to a motion on this, could you give us a total of where we're at on this particular bill?
They did not change. Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, with your motions, you have approved $165,771,697 from some account, we haven't determined the account yet, as well as $25,706,953 in so-called private revenue or local resources.
And could you please remind this body what the original amount was for this bill for those two numbers?
Mr. Chairman, it was identical. So
Okay.
you made no cuts to state capital construction. You did make reductions to K-12 capital construction.
Okay. All right, any questions? Any motions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move that we move directly from the LSRA to the SIPA and streamline the process and the explanation of the same.
Okay. Do we have a second? Have a second from Representative Sherwood? And all those in favor of the motion to move the money directly from our savings account, LSRA, to the SIPA account for the governor to spend the money on these issues, respond with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. That amendment carries, and I think now we're on to voting. We have to draft the bill before we can vote on it, so we've completed that business. Is there any other business that we have tonight?
Mr. Chairman, there is, if you'll pardon me for one moment.
Well, they're discussing that. Ms. Childress, we did not notice re-referrals for this meeting, did we?
We did not.
Okay.
So it'd probably be best to wait until tomorrow.
Thank you. And before you respond, Mr. McComey, did you have something additional you wanted to share with the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if this is the right point to put it in, but we did go back and do some research on the question that was asked on the school side. How many dollars would be needed for the design? And I have a handout. I don't know if they've been passed out or not yet.
Yes, they do have the handout.
Thank you. Got it.
So, Mr. Chairman, The design funds that would be needed are kind of broke down in, through those categories, under the response under item number 1. So in total, we would need an additional $4,380,121. And that would reduce then that funding, in the request for the construction by that same like amount. So in the future, if we were to come back, the original construction fund request was $144,569,700. That would be reduced by that same amount, and so we'd be at $140,189,579.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Good.
Mr. Chairman, also, there was a question of what are the construction and demolition costs for the Campbell County Transportation Facility? That construction cost was $13,531,504. The design is in progress now for that building, and the demo request was $941,720.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. McCray?
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank
Stand
you.
for any questions.
Any questions of the director? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Richards, you could continue, please.
Mr. Chairman, that was actually the item that I was contemplating.
Okay. All right. Do we have any further business, Mr. Richards?
Mr. Chairman, you do not.
Okay.
I believe you.
Mr. Richards, what's your anticipation for these two bills that we've gone through as far as having them drafted, ready for us to review and vote on?
I expect you'll have them early next week, Monday or Tuesday, and we can just insert that when you meet individually and you still have the ability to amend those. However, I would suggest you'll have yet another bite of the apple, and that may be best. So once you vote on those formally, they will be numbered, sent to the floor, introduced, and then they will be sent right back to you as your standing committee, not as you are authoring the bill, but as your standing committee. So if you do have amendments and perhaps something like the design that you're thinking about, you'll have another bite at the apple at that time.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Any comments from the committee before we adjourn? All right. Thank you very much. We're adjourned. Have a good evening.